Areas near forests or semi-wild regions often change as natural environments shrink over time. As forest land decreases due to the expansion of residential areas and production zones, the natural food sources for wolves also decline. This forces them to travel farther in search of food. At first, wolves only appear deep in the forest or in areas with little human presence. Later, they gradually move toward forest edges and closer to residential zones. Their frequency of appearance increases over time. This indicates that their movement behavior is changing as they adapt to the new environment surrounding human settlements and nearby farms. In the next stage, wolves begin to appear at night or during dawn.
Inaudio.
They may travel alone or in small groups. While moving, they often follow fences, trails, or areas with dense vegetation. These routes help them avoid detection. In some cases, wolves approach livestock areas very closely before quickly retreating. Their appearance becomes increasingly frequent near the boundary between forest and residential areas. This significantly expands their range of activity. At the same time, the level of risk to livestock in human living areas increases based on real observed changes in the region. As the situation becomes more evident, control measures begin to be implemented. Observers track the familiar movement routes of wolves to determine suitable locations. Traps are placed along trails, near fences, at forest edges, and in open ground areas. These are places wolves commonly pass through while foraging. Bait is placed during setup to increase attraction efficiency. Surrounding areas are left unchanged to avoid alerting the animals. Observation points are also positioned discreetly to monitor the entire area without altering the natural movement behavior of wolves in controlled zone. After the trap system is fully installed, the area is kept quiet to avoid changing wolf behavior. At night, wolves begin to return along their familiar routes. They move more slowly when approaching baited areas and pause to observe their surroundings. They then continue through both vegetation cover and open ground. Observers monitor from hidden positions to record behavior. The stable environment makes wolves less cautious. This allows them to approach closer to prearranged control zone set up in advance in the forest edge area. As they approach the identified zone, wolves begin to enter the activation range. The scent of bait causes them to pause and observe before moving forward. During this process, they follow the pre-calculated path. Once sufficient trigger conditions are met, the trap mechanism activates rapidly. The animal is restrained at the exact location. The entire event happens so quickly that the wolf cannot change direction. After the situation ends, observers confirm that the trap location matches the actual movement routes of the wolf pack. After the trapping event, wolf packs continue to appear in the area in the following nights. They move more slowly and tend to observe more carefully before approaching. Some individuals change direction upon detecting unusual signs. However, familiar routes such as forest edges and trails are still frequently used. Their movement behavior becomes more cautious, but does not disappear completely. Observers continue recording these changes to assess the impact of control measures in the real environment around forest edge and residential areas. Wolf control requires long-term observation and a clear understanding of movement behavior. When traps are placed in the correct locations, effectiveness increases. This helps reduce risks to livestock and residential communities in the area.
The points on my trap right there. Down in there, like so.
On-foot catch, which is an ID.
It all began with silence. There were no howls echoing through the night. No clear signs of chaos appeared around the farms. Only unexplained gaps. A few young calves went missing. Sheep herds became unusually restless whenever night fell. And then, on the soft mud beside the fence, footprints appeared. They were not wandering aimlessly. They moved as if they had memorized every tree root, every stream gap, and every trail cutting through the forest. The wolves were returning. Unlike many other predators, wolves do not rely on sheer strength. They win through coordination. A pack can track a target for hours, memorize terrain, and change tactics in the middle of a pursuit. This is what turns controlling them into a long game of strategy, where every move must be carefully calculated. Infrared cameras were deployed along natural movement corridors, night after night. the footage began to reveal an invisible network stretching across the mountains and forests. Wolves did not move randomly. They used fixed routes passed down through generations. These paths were like hidden highways understood only by them. Once the movement patterns were decoded, the next phase began. Instead of placing traps everywhere, wildlife control teams focused on natural choke points. These could be narrow passages between cliffs, a dry stream bed, or a gap between dense clusters of trees. The goal was not to force a wolf into a trap. The goal was to place the trap exactly where it was already going to pass. The steel foothold trap was prepared so carefully it almost disappeared into the ground. Each layer of dry leaves was meticulously repositioned. Soil was dusted to match the surrounding environment. Even human scent had to be minimized as much as possible. With a sense of smell far beyond many other animals, wolves can detect a single unusual detail that the human eye would miss. One small mistake was enough to make an entire pack change routes for weeks.
So this dog box bedding is
But the hardest part was not hiding the trap. The hardest part was understanding the mind of the wolf. Adult wolves rarely rush into anything new. They observe, they test, they sniff repeatedly before making a decision. This is why experts spend weeks monitoring behavior. Every new footprint on the ground, every camera angle, and every slight change in movement routes becomes an essential piece of a larger puzzle.
Yep.
Then, on a freezing night, the long-awaited moment finally arrived. On the monitoring screen, the silhouette of a large wolf appeared under infrared light. It moved slowly along the familiar corridor. No rush, no hesitation. Everything around it matched what it had seen for months. When the next step landed on the pre-calculated spot, the trap mechanism instantly triggered. The entire process happened in a fraction of a second. Rapid response teams quickly arrived at the scene to handle the situation according to wildlife management protocols. The system's goal was not to create a violent confrontation. Instead, everything was designed to minimize risk to humans, livestock, and the surrounding ecosystem. But the story did not end with a single capture. The remaining wolves quickly adapted. They changed routes, shifted activity times, and became more cautious. Once again, the strategic game began. Wolf control has never been just about a steel foothold trap. It is a battle of patience, observation, and understanding one of North America's most intelligent predators. In that vast forest, where every footprint tells its own story, victory does not belong to the stronger side. It belongs to the one who understands the opponent's behavior better than anyone else.
Feed the pack for several days. But then
Wolves are predators that live in deep forests, mountainous regions, and vast grasslands. They have a high ability to adapt to changing environments, especially when natural food sources become scarce. Wolves usually live in packs, but they can also separate to hunt alone when necessary. When survival conditions become difficult, they begin expanding their range far beyond their familiar habitat. In some cases, wolves may move closer to human settlements if they discover more accessible food sources in the surrounding environment. The appearance of wolves near residential areas usually occurs at night or in the early morning when human activity is limited. They move cautiously, often following natural trails, fences, or areas with vegetation cover to avoid detection. Wolves rarely cross open spaces because they can easily be spotted from a distance. They may appear alone or in small groups depending on feeding conditions. Their repeated return to the same routes shows that they have developed stable movement patterns around the area, making their presence increasingly noticeable over time. As wolves appear more frequently, residents begin noticing clear impacts on daily life and livestock farming. Livestock and poultry face a higher risk of being threatened, especially at night. Signs such as unusual noises and footprints around fences cause people to become more alert. Some households even have to change their daily routines to ensure safety. The presence of wolves not only affects property but also creates psychological pressure on communities living near forests. Therefore, monitoring and control become necessary to reduce long-term risks in the area. After identifying the activity zone, traps are deployed along routes that wolves frequently use. Locations near fences, trails, or areas with vegetation cover are prioritized because these places are more likely to show signs of wolf activity. The people carrying out the operation try to keep the surrounding environment unchanged to avoid altering the wolves' natural behavior. Bait is placed to increase attraction. At the same time, observation from a distance helps minimize human presence, preventing wolves from becoming wary and suddenly changing their travel routes within the controlled area. The main reason wolves return to this area is the decline of natural food sources in their habitat. When conditions in the forest can no longer provide enough resources, they are forced to move closer to human settlements to survive. Farms and livestock facilities become targets because they offer easily accessible food. After successfully finding food there, wolves tend to remember the location and return out of habit. This increases the frequency of their appearances, forcing residents to implement control measures to reduce risks in forest-adjacent communities. After a period of monitoring and control, a key moment occurs when observers record a wolf caught in a trap at the prepared location. The animal is held within the controlled area and can no longer move freely as before. The surrounding area shows clear signs of disturbance, reflecting the wolf's earlier approach. Observation is carried out from a safe distance to ensure no danger is created. This result demonstrates that the trap location matched the wolf's travel route and confirms the effectiveness of the entire control process in the area.
Going on 2 weeks. We fight for it, man. It is a tough area. February's all over for us, but this is just absolutely slow. We got on a set post set Bobcat here earlier on our radio, one of our golf and a remake. And with it being season, it's late season, they're just really not responding. Dirt holes, getting a little more.
It's like any other set. You always want your traps a little bit lower than ground level. It's a rule.
The process of controlling wolves requires time, observation, and careful site selection. When movement patterns are well understood, the effectiveness of control measures can be significantly improved. This helps reduce risks to livestock and residential communities near forests. Maintaining monitoring efforts after control measures are completed is also important to ensure long-term stability and safety in the area. In just a few days, several farms located near the northern forests began losing livestock on a regular basis. At first, only a few sheep disappeared overnight, but soon several horses also became targets, raising concern among local farmers. Strangely, the fences remained intact, the barns showed no signs of damage, and the guard dogs reacted for only a few moments before falling silent again. Every morning, fresh tracks appeared in the damp soil leading into the forest. Infrared cameras captured little more than dark shapes moving quickly through the area before vanishing. All signs suggested that a wolf pack had adopted the region as part of its regular travel route. As losses continued to grow, farm owners realized that routine patrols were no longer enough. A wildlife control team was brought in to survey the entire area. Cameras were installed along fences, forest edges, and trails where tracks frequently appeared. After several days of monitoring, they discovered that the wolves followed fixed routes between the forest and grazing areas, showing that any effective response needed to focus on movement patterns rather than reacting after each attack. The first solution was bow hunting. Unlike firearms, bows allowed hunters to approach quietly without disturbing livestock. Hunters set up ambush positions near trails identified by the cameras, using vegetation, mud, and natural terrain for concealment while waiting patiently. The goal was simple: get within range and act before the wolves disappeared back into the forest. However, the reality proved far more difficult. Wolves possess excellent spatial memory and are extremely cautious. They often changed their travel schedules or approached from unexpected directions after detecting even minor disturbances. After many days of waiting, the team had very few opportunities for a close approach. Although bow hunting reduced noise, its effectiveness remained limited. Faced with this challenge, the team turned to cage traps. Large steel enclosures were placed in areas with heavy track activity, particularly near dry creek beds, forest edges, and entrances to grazing fields. Bait was placed inside, while the exterior was carefully camouflaged with leaves, branches, and natural soil to reduce any signs of human activity. Over the following days, the cage traps produced only limited results. A few younger, less experienced wolves entered while searching for food, but most of the pack kept a safe distance. Adult wolves often stopped to observe from afar before changing direction, showing that experienced animals could easily distinguish between a natural food source and a man-made structure placed along their usual route. The camouflage process was carried out with great care. A thin layer of soil covered the trigger mechanism, followed by dry leaves and natural ground cover to eliminate visible signs of disturbance. Even small rocks and nearby branches were carefully repositioned so the area blended perfectly with the surrounding terrain. At sunrise, the team returned to inspect the traps and found one section heavily disturbed. As they moved closer, they discovered that an adult wolf had been caught at a location where tracks had repeatedly appeared. Specialists quickly secured the situation, conducted a health assessment, and attached an identification device for monitoring. Numerous fresh tracks still surrounded the area, indicating that the entire pack had passed through during the night. This story is not only about traps or protecting livestock. It reflects a growing reality in which the distance between humans and wildlife continues to shrink. As environments change, predators adapt to survive, while rural communities search for ways to protect their livelihoods. From bow hunting to cage traps and foothold traps, each method comes with its own advantages and limitations. If you found this story interesting, leave a comment and don't forget to follow the channel for more real-life stories about wildlife and modern wildlife management.
A sudden trap tightens along a narrow trail covered in wolf tracks. Scenes like this have become increasingly common across many parts of the northern United States, where farmers and wildlife control teams are still struggling to stop repeated attacks on livestock. For many communities living near deep forests and wide open grazing land, wolves are no longer just symbols of the wild. They have become a direct threat to sheep, cattle, and horses. Every year, wolf-related losses cost ranchers millions of dollars, making predator control an unavoidable part of daily life for many local residents.
Outside! They took the baby!
Wolves are no longer staying deep in the wilderness like they once did. They are moving closer to ranches and residential areas in search of easier food sources. In northern states like Montana, Idaho, and Alaska, livestock attacks have continued to rise, pushing many ranchers into crisis. After years of repeated losses, wildlife control teams have been forced to set trap systems along the wolves' most commonly used travel routes in order to reduce predator pressure near farming communities. Wolf trapping is heavily regulated by wildlife management agencies. Areas showing high levels of wolf activity are carefully surveyed before any traps are deployed. The goal is not to eliminate the entire population, but control packs that repeatedly move into livestock areas. In states with large wolf populations, control efforts usually take place during colder months when natural food sources become scarce and wolves are more likely to approach ranches in search of prey. To locate the best trap sites, control teams track footprints, claw marks on trees, and narrow forest trails frequently used by wolf packs. Steel cable snares and specialized foothold traps are carefully placed along tight pathways near dry creek beds, hillsides, and forest edges. Every detail has to be calculated with extreme precision. Even the slightest unfamiliar scent or unusual disturbance can cause an entire pack to change direction and disappear from the area completely.
Drill.
In addition to mechanical traps, many teams also use motion-activated cameras and sound devices that mimic injured prey to monitor wolf movement. The sounds are designed to trigger the wolves' curiosity and lure them closer to pre-selected locations. Infrared cameras record their activity over multiple days, allowing control teams to identify the most effective timing and placement for trap deployment. Wolf trapping is far more complicated than simply setting equipment and waiting. It is a battle of patience, field experience, and the ability to read signs in harsh terrain. Many wildlife control workers travel dozens of miles through forests and mountains while constantly checking trap systems to ensure everything remains safe and compliant with regulations. When dealing with intelligent and highly cautious predators like wolves, even a single mistake can ruin an entire operation. According to wildlife management agencies, trapping programs have significantly reduced livestock attacks in several high wolf density regions. However, the practice remains highly controversial. Some conservation groups believe ranchers should prioritize alternatives such as electric fencing, livestock guardian dogs, and non-lethal deterrent systems instead of relying too heavily on traps. Meanwhile, many farmers argue that without immediate control efforts, the damage would quickly become impossible to handle. The debate between wolf conservation and predator control will likely continue for many years to come. But in places where the sound of wolves still echoes near grazing fields every night, wildlife control teams continue their work with the same goal: maintaining the fragile balance between people and nature. If you want to keep following these intense stories from the deep forests of North America, don't forget to like and subscribe to support the channel.
Beneath the night sky of Wyoming, wolf howls echoed from the distant pine forests. At first, they appeared only occasionally near the end of winter, but within a few years, their tracks began showing up around most grazing areas. Young calves disappeared during the night. Fences were damaged, and many ranchers spent sleepless nights patrolling their property. What worried them most was not just the growing losses, but the remarkable coordination of wolf packs that had become accustomed to living near human activity. As the attacks increased, many ranchers realized that traditional methods were no longer effective. Bows, firearms, and guard dogs could not reliably stop wolves operating under the cover of darkness.
Got it.
Instead of reacting after each incident, they began adopting behavior-based management systems designed to make grazing areas less favorable for predators. Wildlife specialists started studying travel routes, activity patterns, and the way wolf packs selected targets before approaching livestock. After identifying the wolves' regular travel corridors, wildlife management teams deployed control systems directly along the routes most frequently used by the animals. The new design was intended to hold a wolf without causing injury. Motion sensors and remote monitoring cameras provided continuous surveillance of the area while minimizing human presence, since even a faint unfamiliar scent could cause a pack to avoid the area for weeks. Every piece of equipment was carefully concealed to blend into the natural landscape and avoid attracting the attention of the most cautious animals. For many nights, the wolves continued to appear while keeping their distance from suspicious locations. They followed fence lines, investigated grazing grounds, and then returned to their usual routes. carefully checking for any changes. The footage revealed that wolves do not rely solely on instinct. They remember terrain features, detect subtle environmental changes, and quickly adapt when they sense danger, making them far more difficult to manage than many other predators. Some nights, they simply observed from a distance and left without approaching the livestock, as if evaluating how safe the area truly was. On the fifth night, the moment everyone had been waiting for finally arrived. Cameras captured the lead wolf stepping onto a narrow trail near a creek, where the equipment had been hidden beneath soft soil and dry grass for days. Just seconds later, the system was triggered. Yet the most remarkable part was not the device itself, but the reaction of the remaining members of the pack. The following morning, the wildlife management team quickly returned to the site. After conducting a safety assessment, they approached carefully. A specialized transport crate was brought close to the location. Every movement was performed slowly to minimize stress on the animal. After only a few minutes of coordinated effort, the wolf was guided into the crate and the door was securely closed. Throughout the process, established procedures were followed to ensure the safety of both people and wildlife. The entire operation was carried out under control conditions, minimizing risk for both humans and animals. Once the transport vehicle departed, the wolf was relocated to a designated wildlife conservation area. This was the most important stage of the process because the ultimate goal was not to eliminate wolves from their natural habitat. What ranchers truly wanted was to create a safe buffer between wildlife and livestock operations. By understanding travel routes, daily habits, and the ways wolves adapt to their surroundings, people gain more opportunities to reduce conflict without relying entirely on aggressive measures. The conflict between humans and wolves will likely continue for many years. However, experience from behavior-based management programs has demonstrated that these strategies are far more effective than relying solely on force or constant pursuit. Understanding the opponent allows people to develop more sustainable solutions for both sides. If you enjoyed this story, leave a comment and subscribe to the channel to discover more fascinating stories about wildlife and life along the edge of nature.
Over the past several years, wolves have gradually returned to many rural and mountainous regions across Russia.
Together and move.
For biologists, this is often viewed as a sign that ecosystems are recovering. But for many ranchers and livestock owners, The growing presence of these predators has created new challenges. From large farms bordering dense forests to remote mountain communities, signs of wolf activity are becoming increasingly common. Wolves track livestock, use the terrain to their advantage, and sometimes cause significant losses for farmers. Once a pack establishes territory in an area, the pressure on livestock can persist for months, forcing rural communities to continually search for more effective ways to protect their animals. As pressure from wolf packs continues to grow, many ranch owners have been forced to invest heavily in protecting their livestock. They install surveillance cameras, reinforce fencing, use warning systems, and hire professional wildlife control teams when necessary.
Come along.
However, unlike many opportunistic predators, wolves are highly coordinated pack hunters. They memorize terrain, learn from experience, and quickly change their behavior when they sense danger. This turns wolf management into a prolonged battle strategy, where even a small mistake can undo weeks of preparation. In modern wildlife management, steel foothold traps are considered one of the most important tools in areas experiencing high levels of predation. However, deploying them is far more complex than many people assume. Control teams spend days surveying the landscape, searching for tracks, for caught on fences, scent marking locations, and the travel routes wolves use most often. Every trap is carefully positioned to take advantage of the animal's natural movement patterns rather than forcing them toward a specific location. Before any trap is set, specialists typically monitor the area using infrared cameras and motion sensors to better understand behavior of the entire pack. They record activity times, approach routes, and locations where wolves frequently stop to observe their surroundings. The most important objective is to avoid making the area appear unusual. Even the slightest sign of danger can cause an entire pack to change its route and disappear from the area for weeks. As a result, most of the operation is spent watching and waiting rather than actually setting traps. Once a suitable location has been identified, steel foothold traps are installed along natural travel corridors. These pathways often develop over many years of repeated use, following creek banks, mountain passes, and forest edges where wolves feel safest. Rather than moving randomly across the landscape, most wolf packs rely on familiar routes that have been used for generations. Understanding these invisible corridors greatly increases control effectiveness without expanding the area of intervention. However, even with increasingly advanced surveillance technology and years of field experience, managing wolves remains a difficult task. They work as a team, remember their surroundings, and adapt their behavior quickly. An area that remains quiet for several months can suddenly show fresh signs of wolf activity after a single breeding season. When one route becomes heavily monitored, new travel corridors often emerge deeper in the forest or farther away from areas with regular human activity. Ultimately, the story of wolves is about far more than steel foothold traps, surveillance equipment, or wildlife control programs. It highlights the complexity of balancing wildlife conservation with the protection of human livelihoods. Every improvement in management brings new challenges because the opponent is not a simple animal, but an intelligent predator that has adapted to its environment for thousands of years. And in the end, the question remains, are humans truly controlling the return of wolves, or are we simply learning to live alongside a part of nature that never completely disappeared?
In less than a week, farms along the northern forest edge began losing livestock one after another. At first, only a few sheep disappeared overnight, but the number quickly rose into the dozens. The strange thing was that the fences were not broken, the gates remained closed, and the dogs barked only for a few seconds before falling silent. By morning, the damp ground was torn up, with drag marks across the grass and overlapping tracks like an invisible web. The wolf pack was not attacking at random. It appeared only when the wind shifted and the patrol lights moved away, leaving nothing but dark shadows slipping past the cameras. Facing this situation, the farmers could no longer depend only on night patrols. They had to try different methods before the losses grew completely out of control. They called in a group of local hunters to stop the threat. The team used several control methods, including bow hunting, cage traps, and foot traps. The first method was bow hunting. They did not use firearms because they did not want to create panic near the livestock, so they chose to hunt in silence. The hunters hid behind low bushes, covered their clothing with mud to reduce human scent, and waited along the trails leading toward the grazing fields. The plan seemed simple. Wait for the wolves to return, let them come close enough, and act before they disappeared again. However, after a long time, bow hunting brought no real results. The control team decided to switch to cage traps. Large traps were placed near the dry creek and along the paths with the most tracks. Live bait was placed inside, while the outside was camouflaged with dry branches and weeds. The metallic smell was carefully treated, and every human footprint was erased. Everything was prepared so carefully that the farmers believed if the pack returned, at least one wolf would be caught. After many nights of monitoring, the cage traps produced only limited results. A few young or less cautious wolves were lured inside. This showed the team that cage traps were not completely useless, but their success rate was too low to stop the entire pack. For wolves that had escaped ambushes many times before, the large structure, strange smell, and unnatural object on a familiar route looked more like a warning sign than a chance to feed. The second failure forced the team to change strategy again: foot traps. Unlike cage traps, these traps were not placed beside bait, but buried exactly where a wolf had to step before choosing its path. One trap was set slightly to the left of a small mound, right where the deepest track had appeared after the rain. The soil was moved with scent-free tools. Dry leaves were placed back as if nothing had been touched, and small stones were returned to their original positions. Every trace of human presence disappeared. After a long night, while morning mist still covered the forest edge, the team returned to check each trap site. From a distance, the ground around the mound had been scratched up, and dry leaves were scattered across the area. When they moved closer, they discovered that a large wolf had been caught exactly at its usual observation point. What stood out even more was the number of other tracks around it. It seemed the whole pack had passed through during the night, but the moment the trap was triggered, they changed direction and retreated deep into the forest. From then on, that old route was no longer safe for them. This story is not only about a trap or the defense of a farm. It also shows how thin the boundary between humans and nature has become. When forests shrink and natural prey becomes scarce, predators move toward places where food is easier to find. Humans build fences to protect their way of life, while wolves follow the darkness to survive. That is why the biggest question is not which trap is stronger, but whether humans and nature still have enough distance left to avoid facing each other endlessly in the night.